Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the Valley of the Kings, where the desert air is dry, the stars are sharp above you, and the only sound is the crunch of sand under your boots. You're holding a lantern. Yes, an old-school, oil-fueled lantern, flickering like it's auditioning for a horror movie. And right there in front of you, a set of sealed steps waits to be uncovered. It's November 1922. Howard Carter has been digging for years, and the team finally finds something worth more than all those broken jars and bits of rubble. You lean down, brush away the dust, and your heart does the thing it always does in scary movies, beats too fast. This, my friend, is the moment that makes or breaks you. And honestly, you probably won't survive this. You'd faint right here from the sheer intensity. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're re-listening from and what time it is right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sand crunches under your knees as you crouch, brushing away at the carved stone. You can see faint chisel marks, as if a craftsman 3,000 years ago got distracted halfway through lunch and never came back. The air smells faintly metallic, as though the earth itself is guarding a secret. Your hand runs over the plaster seal, still intact, stamped with the royal necropolis symbol. It's the jackal Anubis himself perched on 9 bound prisoners. A not-so-subtle way of saying, don't even think about breaking in, buddy. But here you are. Carter is here. Lord Carnarvon, the financier, is pacing back and forth, already thinking about what the newspapers will say. His mustache twitches. Yes, in my imagination, it twitches, and he whispers, "Can you see anything?" Carter takes a candle, pokes a tiny hole, and peers in. The wax drips, the flame bends, and he mutters the words that echo through history. Yes, wonderful things. You squint, straining with him, and for a moment, your mind paints shapes in the darkness. Golden lions, ebony chests, beds shaped like mythical beasts. Historians still argue whether Carter actually said that phrase, or if it was polished later for dramatic effect. But hey, it's catchy. The tomb feels more like a time capsule than a burial. You're aware that most pharaohs' tombs got looted centuries ago, stripped clean like a fridge after teenagers passed through. But here, in front of you, lies something nearly untouched. That's like finding an unopened PlayStation 2 in your grandma's attic. Except instead of being worth $20 on eBay, it's worth national treasure status. You press closer. The staircase carved into bedrock seems to pull you in, each step narrowing until you feel the weight of all those centuries pressing down. You catch the smell faint, but they're of something ancient. Not just dust, but a kind of trapped air. Scientists later suggest the tombs can hold spores, maybe even dangerous molds, sealed away like pickles in a jar. Some fringe theories even whispered about toxic gases rigged up by priests as a supernatural burglar alarm. Practical? Not really. Spooky? Absolutely. Your lantern flickers again, and you imagine what it must have been like. Carter in his pressed suit, sweating under the desert night, workers whispering in Arabic, Lord Carnarvon muttering about the cost of lantern oil. And here you are, with the privilege of first sight. The tomb's outer door is still sealed, but those little seals bear the royal necropolis insignia, not the personal cartouche of a king. That's confusing. Historians still argue whether that meant the tomb was hastily repurposed, maybe even stolen from another burial. Your hand brushes the cool limestone, and you almost laugh. Imagine burying someone in a rush, and layering all this pomp and ceremony over it. It's like decorating a cardboard box with glitter and calling it a palace. Yet, here it stands. The workers light more lamps, and suddenly shadows stretch against the rough walls. The desert wind outside dies down, and for a heartbeat, it's silent, eerily silent. You hear your own breathing, ragged, echoing in your head, and you realize The last time someone stood here, Tutankhamun was fresh in his coffin, the ink on the papyri barely dry. That's a long silence to break, and break it you do. The chisels strike. You descend those steps now, one cautious foot after the other, feeling the cool rock swallow you. Each edge is worn just slightly, not by many feet, because almost no one has been here, but by the workers who cut them more than 3,000 years ago. Your lantern throws slanted shadows across the staircase, and the silence presses heavier with every move. It's as if the tomb is listening to you, like the stone itself wants to know who dares intrude. The stairwell itself is narrow, not grand like you'd imagine for a pharaoh. That's the first hint that Tutankhamun's burial was unusual. Historians still argue whether this space was meant for a minor noble and later repurposed when the young king died suddenly. You grip the wall, fingers tracing the tool marks, and the thought creeps in. This wasn't planned with the precision of a long ring. It was a scramble. Almost like his architects were told, "Okay folks, he's gone. Let's make do with what we've got." At the base of the stair, you stop. A plastered doorway seals off the chamber beyond. Its surface is covered with stamp impressions, some showing the jackal and prisoner's motif, others the cartouches of the royal necropolis. The plaster has cracks, some chips, but the main seals are unbroken. Your lantern glow dances on them, revealing their ancient authority. You think about the officials who pressed those seals in with solemnity, maybe muttering a warning to intruders like you. If this were a movie, thunder would crash right about now. Instead, you get the desert silence, the faint shuffle of the workers behind you, and maybe one nervous sneeze. You kneel, brushing away more rubble, and your nose catches that same odd tang as before dry plaster and ancient dust mingled with something faintly sweet, almost resin-like. Later analyses reveal traces of embalming materials that seeped through the cracks over centuries. Fringe enthusiasts have spun this into tales of deliberate chemical traps, as if priests brewed up potions to choke out tomb robbers. Realistically? Probably not. But in this moment, the air feels heavy enough that you cough just in case. Behind you, Lord Carnarvon hovers, muttering about how long it's taking. He's got that aristocratic impatience, like he's waiting for tea service at a hotel rather than the find of the century. You half expect him to tap his foot. Carter, though Carter is methodical. His hands linger on each seal as if memorizing them, storing their shapes away for history. And here you are, in the flickering glow, watching the ritual of discovery unfold. Carter instructs a small hole to be made. A chisel strikes stone, echoing like a muffled drumbeat in the narrow stairwell. Dust swirls up, glowing golden in the lantern light. When the gap finally breaks through, Carter crouches, slides his head forward, and peers in. You lean closer, holding your breath with him. A flicker of reflection dances back, something metallic, something gilded. It's like staring into a treasure chest in a video game, except this one is real and costs millions of museum visitors decades later. You catch your reflection too, distorted in the sheen of whatever lies beyond. For a heartbeat, you wonder what Tutankhamun would think of you, crouched here, eyes wide, more excited about his furniture than his reign. The irony is sharp. He was a relatively minor pharaoh in life, forgotten in dusty king lists. Yet his deathbed clutter makes him the most famous ruler of ancient Egypt today. If that's not the universe's sense of humor, what is? The workers whisper prayers behind you, some crossing themselves, others murmuring old protective charms. They know the stories. Tombs are not just tombs, they're thresholds. Some fringe accounts claim Carter himself felt a chill or saw a faint shimmer of light, though those are probably embellishments. Still, when you lean forward, you swear the air on your skin feels cooler, almost damp, as if the tomb exhales after centuries. The plaster around the gap crumbles further, revealing more of the chamber. You see a jumble of shapes, gilded couches shaped like wild beasts, boxes stacked haphazardly, and poles leaning at odd angles. It looks less like a sacred resting place, and more like the aftermath of moving day chaos. Historians still argue whether this clutter was deliberate symbolism for the afterlife, or simply the product of haste. Either way, it's messy proof that the ancient Egyptians weren't always as orderly as their temples suggest. You shift your lantern, and golden reflections scatter across the walls. Lord Carnarvon gasps, the kind of gasp that belongs in theater rather than archaeology. You half expect him to shout, "We're rich!" But he holds it in, perhaps remembering his dignity. The workers glance at each other, uncertain whether to be awed or you squeeze through the narrow opening now, stepping carefully into the antechamber. Your lantern flickers wildly at first, struggling against the stale air, but then steadies enough to reveal the chaos inside. You're expecting neat rows of offerings, perhaps orderly stacks like a Pharaoh's version of IKEA. Instead, the room looks like Tutankhamun's afterlife storage locker. Beds shaped like divine animals lean at odd angles. Pottery jars are crammed against the walls, and ceremonial chariots pile awkwardly on each other as if someone lost patience while packing. Your boots crunch on scattered debris. The smell hits you next a pungent mixture of resin, old wood, and something faintly musty, like the inside of a long-closed trunk. That odor, sharp but strangely sweet, is the scent of ancient embalming oils. Historians still argue whether some of these objects burned slightly in antiquity-charred black patches suggest that oils, ignited during the burial process, singeing the outer layer of treasures. It's like Tut's afterlife party nearly went up in smoke before it even started. You shine your light over a stack of painted boxes. Their surfaces are decorated with hieroglyphs and animal motifs, but the lids are uneven, as though shoved closed in a hurry. One fringe rumor insists that one of these boxes originally contained a golden amulet that vanished after discovery, a favorite subject for conspiracy theorists. Did Carter quietly pocket it? Did it crumble beyond recognition? Or did it never exist in the first place? No one can prove it. You brush your hand across one lid and feel the flaking paint crumble like dried pastry. On your left, 3 dismantled chariots gleam with traces of gold leaf. Their wheels are propped against the wall, spokes still sturdy after 3 millennia. You imagine Tut racing them in ceremonial parades, though whether he ever stood steady on them in life remains a debate. Some medical studies suggest he had a clubfoot and probably wasn't the stunt riding type. But hey, if you're going to the afterlife, you might as well bring the deluxe model wheels, right? You pause by a set of alabaster jars, smooth and ghostly pale in the lantern glow. Their stoppers are carved in the shapes of human heads, likely meant to represent the 4 sons of Horus, guardians of the viscera. You lean closer, half expecting to hear whispers from inside. Of course, they're empty now, their contents already removed and studied long ago. Still, the artistry lingers, reminding you that even the guts had VIP treatment. In the far corner, strange animal-headed couches catch your eye. One shaped like a cow, another like a lion, each gilded and inlaid with precious stones. Their expressions are oddly serene, like spirit companions waiting for Tut to lie down and take a nap. The irony is not lost on you. Tutankhamun's life was short and probably painful, but his afterlife accommodations look like something out of a Pharaoh-themed spa. You half expect someone to offer you cucumber slices for your eyes. You can't help but chuckle quietly at the clutter. If this were your garage, you'd get scolded for the mess. But here, every broken box or toppled chair holds priceless historical weight. Carter knew it too. He spent months painstakingly cataloging every item before moving further inside. Historians still argue whether his slow pace was scientific discipline or simply a way to stretch out funding. Either way, the world had to wait while each jar, each bow, each cushion was photographed and labeled. The walls of the antechamber are bare no painted scenes, no hieroglyphic spells. That's unusual for a royal tomb. It deepens the suspicion that Tutankhamun's burial was rushed, squeezed into a space never meant for such a famous afterlife. You run your hand along the cold plaster, wondering if perhaps some inscriptions were planned, but abandoned when the deadline loomed. Pharaoh funerals, apparently, didn't allow for extensions. The light from your lantern bounces off a gilded shrine near the chamber's back. Its doors are sealed shut, flanked by guardian statues painted black, standing tall with golden staffs. They stare forward, silent, their eyes rimmed with coal-like outlines. You shiver at their lifelike intensity. Step closer, and you'd swear they might step forward too, raising their staffs to bar your way. Quirky detail? Their sandals were made of wood, not gold. Apparently, even divine guardians had to be practical. The air is still heavy, and you cough again. Some later researchers suggested spores of aspergillus mold might have lingered in tomb air, enough to make the weak sick. It's one of the many natural theories behind the so-called curse. In this moment, though, it just feels like dust choking your throat. You wipe your mouth and press on, drawn toward that sealed doorway beyond the antechamber. Behind you, Lord Carnarvon mutters about how full the room is. He sees wealth. Carter sees history. And you? You see a teenage king's afterlife kit. You edge closer to the great shrine that blocks the way forward, your lantern light flickering across its gilded surface. The thing towers almost to the ceiling, filling the chamber with its bulk. It isn't just a box, it's a box within a box within a box, like some ancient Russian doll, but made of wood, gold, and solemnity. You press your palm against the surface, half expecting it to hum like a refrigerator. Instead, it stays cool and silent, heavy with 3,000 years of waiting. The statues standing guard beside it glare with unblinking eyes. Painted black, gilded trim gleaming faintly. They grip their staffs as though they love nothing more than to whack your lantern out of your hand. You notice their sandals again, plain wood, and can't resist thinking. Even supernatural bouncers had to economize. Carter stands still for a long moment, scribbling notes, sketching by lamplight, his handwriting looping across the page like a man trying to keep up with history itself. When the outer shrine doors are pried open, the reveal is both breathtaking and anticlimactic. Inside stands another shrine, and inside that, another. 4 nested shrines in total, like Pharaoh-sized gift wrapping. Historians still argue whether this layering was symbolic, protective, or simply showing off. You can imagine the burial crew chuckling. If grave robbers get through one, let's give them 3 more to chew on. You chuckle too, though quietly, because the guardians still seem to be listening. The innermost shrine finally gives way to the sarcophagus, a quartzite box, its surface carved with protective deities, wings outstretched across the lid. The stone glimmers faintly under your lantern, pale pinkish yellow, like it's blushing under your gaze. At the corners, 4 carved goddesses stretch their arms to protect the king within. You trace the outlines with your eyes, realizing this isn't just decoration. It's a cosmic security system, a divine embrace meant to keep eternity on track. Carter leans close, lips tight, and brushes the dust from one corner. The craftsmanship is extraordinary, but your attention shifts to the crack's hairline fractures running across the quartzite lid. Later reports suggest workmen dropped the slab during construction, patched it clumsily, and hoped no one would notice. Guess what? You noticed. Ancient Egypt may have been the land of pyramids and precision, but even here, accidents happen. Inside the sarcophagus rest 3 coffins, nested like the shrines around them. The outer 2 are wooden, thickly gilded, plastered with inlays of glass and lapis. They shine like sunlight, frozen in gold. The inner one, though the smallest, the most intimate, is solid gold. Nearly 110 kilograms of it, shaped to Tutankhamun's form. His crossed arms clutch the crook and flail, symbols of kingship. His face, serene yet strangely youthful, stares back with inlaid obsidian eyes. You think, this boy is more famous in death than he ever dreamed in life. The details are dazzling. Intricate hieroglyphs spiral across the coffins, calling on gods to protect him. The gold surface glows warm in the lamplight, almost alive. You tilt your lantern, and the reflection almost winks. Historians still argue whether this solid gold coffin was always meant for Tutankhamun or adapted from another burial. Evidence suggests some items here were repurposed, even belonging to earlier rulers. It's the Pharaoh's version of hand-me-downs, except they're made of gold, so no one's complaining. And then there is the famous mask. When Carter's team finally lifts it from the inner coffin, its radiance stuns even seasoned eyes. The golden visage, with its lapis eyebrows and turquoise inlays, gazes forward in calm defiance of time. You swallow hard. You've seen the pictures in books and documentaries, but here, in the gloom of the burial chamber, it's overwhelming. The mask seems less like an artifact and more like a person, watching you, silently judging your bedtime snack choices. The air is stifling now. Resin fumes, desert dust, and the faint tongue of oxidizing metal mix together. You cough into your sleeve, but you can't back away. Your eyes linger on the inscriptions, on the face frozen forever young. Tutankhamun was about 18 or 19 when he died, a teenager whose biggest legacy wasn't to ruling an empire, but being buried well enough to be found intact. Irony runs thick here. Some quirky details pop out as you look longer. The ears on the mask are pierced, something unusual for a king, but common for children and women of the era. Was the mask originally made for someone else? Historians still debate it.